Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. I'm Jed Brown, your host for this week's episode, and today we're heading out on safari with a difference. This week I caught up with Harshil Khurmi, who is a pilot for our good friends at SkySafari. SkySafari delivers you directly into world-class wilderness. Their carefully designed trips fly non-stop and in style between the best camps with the best guides and the best wildlife watching in Kenya and Tanzania without so much as a second wasted, which of course gives you longer to revel in the sights, smells, sounds and sensations of the African bush. And when you go on a safari with the guys at SkySafari, they ensure that all of your SkySafari flight emissions, road transfers and operational head office power consumption are compensated for through their partnership with Carbon Tanzania. Finally, the team at SkySafari understand that it's the little details which can make a big difference. From giving you a greater luggage allowance to knowing how you take your G&T, they've got everything covered. So sit back and relax as we head over to East Africa to learn how to safari in style. Enjoy. So Harshil, you are most welcome to the Low Season Traveller Insider Guides podcast. Great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jed. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's our absolute pleasure. And I've got to state straight off, we were just speaking before we started recording, and it's great that you're a fellow Manchester United fan as well. So
Absolutely. I've been a Manchester United fan since I was 6 years old. I'm 31 now, so it's a good 25 years now.
Tremendous. We won't talk about the current situation, but look, let's get straight into SkySafari. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about SkySafari.
All right, sure. I'll give you a brief summary on myself. I'm Harshil. I'm living currently in Nairobi, Kenya. I did grow up here, spent my entire life here. Went to high school, everything. I went to university in South Africa. Then I went to Spain, lived a couple of years in Spain, did my flight training there. Then I moved back to Africa a few years ago. And I spent 3-4 years in Tanzania, flying as a bush pilot. Decided to go that route because it seemed a little bit more exciting. I did get a job offer with Ryanair. So I was almost a Ryanair pilot, but I decided not to go down that route. So I went to Tanzania, working for a company called Coastal Aviation. So we did a lot of safaris, bush flying from island to island, the beach, Zanzibar, etc. And then around about 2020, COVID-19 pandemic hit. And I thought it's all right, it's a good a time as any to move back home, move back to Kenya. And I started working for a company called ALS. So we're based out of Wilson Airport in Nairobi. We do schedule and charter flights. We operate to Masai Mara. We go down to the coast. And part of what we do is we operate SkySafari flights. Now, SkySafari is a unique experience. You can buy a ticket and you can get onto an aircraft, or you can hire a vehicle after landing in Nairobi and you can drive to the Masai Mara. You can drive to Amboseli or up north to Loisaba, or Meru, wherever you're off to. But you will not have the same experience that you'll get on a SkySafari.
How long does the drive take? So people typically when they are doing these the regular, I was going to say, safaris in Kenya and Tanzania, what are the kind of distances? Because there'll be a lot of people listening that haven't ever done any form of a safari, and they might be considering, what are the kind of distances? You know, when you're talking about these places, Amboseli and these different sort of parts, what are the kind of distances? How long are they going to be in a car for if they're traveling by car?
Right. So before I answer that, I'll give you sort of a brief description of how the SkySafari works. So as we were chatting before, when you hear the word safari, what comes to your mind? You picture an African savanna somewhere, a little baobab tree or acacia trees along the side, and you picture yourself in a open top Land Cruiser Jeep, trundling around, hot, dusty, on the lookout for game. And that is very much a part of the SkySafari experience. Now, SkySafari operates on a circuit. So it's been designed to provide SkySafari guests with the ultimate experience. So if you were to consider Nairobi as the central starting point, for example, Nairobi being the capital, your international flight will land in Nairobi. From Nairobi, you'll go down southeast to Amboseli. Now, if you were to do that in a vehicle, that would take you, depending on the traffic and how many stops you make, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours.
Wow. Okay.
You jump on a SkySafari plane. It is a VIP luxury configuration aircraft with your own personal private pilot, welcome drinks, snacks on board. That's a 35-minute flight. Wow.
Okay. So I think right in there we have the crux of the advantage of a SkySafari. It's a big time saver, isn't
100%. It? I can tell you, as somebody who's grown up in this country, being young, when we were growing up in high school, we'd go on excursions, going out with the family as well. Like, oh yeah, all right, let's go on a family holiday. We're going to go to Amboseli. So you'll pile into the Land Cruiser or whatever, or the minivan, and you go. And that means getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, somebody's preparing breakfast. Your mum's shouting at you like, oh, wait, make sure you haven't forgotten A, B, C, D. You're all out in the driveway at 5:30. 6 o'clock, you're in the car. So that by 10, 11 o'clock, you've made it to the national park. You've checked in at the gate, and then you proceed to drive to your camp. Make it to your camp around 11:30, 12 o'clock. Check in for a welcome drink, have some lunch, take a nap, and then go for a game drive. Conversely, if you were to do this on a SkySafari, you wake up at 8:30, you leave your hotel, which is probably very close to the airport, 9 o'clock. You get to our offices at 9:30. There is no queue. There is no waiting. You're straight in. You've already been checked in. You're onto the plane, 10 o'clock, you're airborne. 10:40, you've touched down in Amboseli. The car is waiting for you there. It's waiting for you there at the airstrip with breakfast, hot and cold, drinks, champagne. You get into the car, by 11 o'clock, you've left the airstrip. You've done about a 2-hour game drive by the time you get to the camp. Do you know what I mean?
That's more my idea of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Conversely, the one going in the car, and from my experience, you get there. By the time you get there, you're already knackered. You're looking forward to the nap.
yeah, for sure. And is it fair to say for anybody out there that's I was going to say only flown on jet? Well, tell us about the aircraft type. Actually, these are kind of smaller aircraft than people would be typically used to flying in. What's that experience like in those smaller, lighter aircraft?
So the aircraft that we use for the SkySafari is a Cessna Grand Caravan. It is the largest single-engine turboprop aircraft in the world. It's got 14 seats if you were to use it in a regular commuter version, 2 pilot seats and 12 passenger seats. Now, the SkySafari Caravan has been detailed. Let me put it that way. It's got 2 pilot seats and 8 executive seats in the cabin. Those seats swivel, turn around, move around. The full thing that, you know, when people have the idea of like, oh, I'm flying in a business jet, the jet kind of lifestyle where you've got 2 people that are sat facing each other. You've got a folding tray table that pops out in between the 2 of you. You can put your laptop there. You've got cup holders. Somebody's already on ground. Well, we don't have cabin attendants, but before getting on board, you've been given your snacks and your drinks, and you want a glass of champagne. You want to have a beer, you want to have something to snack on, it's readily available for you. Now, as regards the aircraft itself, it's non-pressurized, so we don't fly that high. But the distances are so short that we don't need to. For example, if we're flying from Nairobi to Amboseli, Nairobi's at an elevation of 5,500 feet. We'll climb up to 11,500 feet. So you're just going 6,000 feet above the ground. So you don't actually need pressurized oxygen at that level. So it's not long enough to justify the use of oxygen. And apart from that, it's a turbine engine. So a lot of people have this idea in their head that, oh my goodness, oh, look at the size of the plane. It's so small. I just come off a 777 from Heathrow to Nairobi. Oh man, this is it is one of the most reliable aircraft ever built. The turbine engine is a Canadian Pratt& Whitney. Again, top standard quality, reliability as well.
Perfect. And obviously fantastic pilots like yourself.
Thanks.
Who again, obviously.
I bet you wouldn't say that if I supported Manchester City, would you?
Absolutely not. And that's a part of it as well. I guess because you're not flying that high, is it possible to see much as you're? I know it's a short flight. Is it possible to see much out the windows when you're at that kind of altitude?
Well, once you're at cruise altitude, 11,500 feet, honestly, everything on the ground looks the same. It's distant. It's specular. It looks like, tiny little lines drawn on a map. But on a clear day, you're flying from Nairobi to Amboseli at 11,500 feet. I cannot begin to explain to you the view that you have of Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Really?
That is something is out of this world.
Yeah.
Apart from that, what we do, especially since it is a SkySafari, and we want to bring the full experience and deliver the utmost to our clients, usually before we land or once we've taken off, we'll do a little bit of a low level. So what is a low level flight? For those that are not that familiar with aviation, it's something that if you've not been on one of these planes or a smaller plane, you've probably never experienced in your life, because you quite simply can't do it on a bigger jet. So literally 5 to 10 minutes before you land, we'll drop down to treetops level. Literally, you'll be 50 to 100 feet off the ground, cruising around along the river, following the curve of the river, or skimming over the top of a lake. And you've got swamps around. And basically, you do get an opportunity to see quite a bit of wildlife. Are you going to see a kill in action? No, probably not, because it's too fast. And ultimately, you're not a helicopter, you're moving around. But are you going to see giraffes and hippos and elephants, at the watering hole? Absolutely.
I love that. We obviously, we sort of focus on the low season months naturally, and when we talk about the low season for East Africa, I guess a lot of that is kind of January through till about kind of what, May time would it be?
Pretty much, yeah. You could say mid to end Jan to about mid to end of May. So you typically the high season is June, July, August, September, and then you've got December, January as well. Yeah. So roughly half the year. So why is it so much so in those periods? It's pretty much holiday time, kids are off school, plus a lot of people in the Northern Hemisphere around that time, December, January, are having winter. Yep. So they want to escape that. Come to July, August, it's the summer holidays for the kids, where we're going for summer holidays. So essentially your low season, your big low season, you're looking at Feb to May, and then again, September to November-ish.
And what's the experience like in the low season? I mean, is there still animals to be seen? What's the attraction of the low season? Is it a worthwhile experience? Is it as good as the high season experience? Is it better than the high season experience?
I would say, having experienced personally both, it is much, much better to go in the low season.
Why is that?
It's not as busy, number one. If you go in the high season, I'll give you an example. We land at various airstrips in the Masai Mara, Amboseli, Meru, etc. You could land there in the busy season and you could have 8 to 10 aircraft at a single airstrip. In the parking lot, you have 15 to 20, if not more, land cruisers waiting for their guests. And I've had it that, the thing is, all the camps, all the guides, all the rangers, they're in constant touch with each other. So what will happen in the high season is somebody will stumble upon a kill, pride of lions, leopard in a tree, bunch of cheetahs just taking down a gazelle and antelope. And they'll spread that out. They'll communicate that to each other. Oh yeah, if you go down this road, this much, turn left, turn right, you'll stumble upon this. Because ultimately, that's also their job and they're very good at it. So they're all trying to deliver the ultimate experience to their guests. So you'll come up to a kill. You got a pride of lions, 10, 15 of them. They've taken down a buffalo. It's the middle of the day. They've eaten half of it. They're sitting in the shade of the tree. What's surrounding them? 10 to 15 Land Cruisers.
Eesh.
Yeah. Now, what's the difference if you do it in the low season? The animals are not going anywhere. They're still going to be there. They're still going to survive. They're still going to kill. They're still going to eat. So you would happen to stumble upon the same situation, but you're not parked in the third row with 2 Land Cruisers in front of you. You're right there 10 meters away, 15 meters away.
Yeah, much better experience. I would.
Much better experience. Couple that with the fact that, look at it from the animal's point of view, you're much less likely to go out or to hang about in the open if you've got 10 to 15 vehicles cruising past you every couple of hours. But in the low season, the biggest problem is the amount of attention that they're receiving, the number of people that are visiting them, the human impact alone. Now, what happens in the low season? That many fewer people, that much more freedom and free space for them. It's happened to me in the low season. You're driving along. Normally, you've got to go, off the beaten path to come across them. But you're in the low season. You're driving along. Nobody's been along that road for 6 to 8 hours. Pride lions, hyenas, on the road, in the middle of the park. Yeah, they're just there. They're chilling because nobody's disturbed them for the last few hours.
Yeah.
So there is that added advantage as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that during those kind of low season periods as well, because there are fewer vehicles around. There's fewer vehicles, to kind of disturb the animals as well. It sort of feels like it's giving them a little bit more space. Exactly. I suppose, which kind of feels right. And I'm also led to believe that during the low season months, especially in the sort of the springtime there, it's a time when there are a lot of young animals around. I mean, the opportunities for spotting game are still very, very good, right?
Very, very good. Absolutely. And the advantage with SkySafari, we've got the migration of animals between Kenya and Tanzania, where they cross the Mara River, the famous wildebeest migration that everyone has seen. So what's the advantage with SkySafari? It doesn't matter when you come, which time of the year you come, it doesn't matter which side of the border the animals are, you could choose to do either or.
Wow.
Yeah. Either circuit or a combination of both.
That's fantastic. When we talk about departure dates for SkySafari, what kind of choices are there available? Is it only on sort of certain times that SkySafari depart? Is it different durations? How does it work?
It's completely flexible. It depends on what you're looking for. You get in touch with SkySafari and you tell them, look, and they will tailor it to your needs. These are my dates. What can you do? So touching back on the SkySafari, and I'll speak for the Kenyan side of it, there are generally 4 destinations. So you'll take off out of Nairobi and you'll go southeast. Mm-hmm. You'll go to Amboseli. You'll spend a couple of nights there. Then you'll head northeast. Again, a drive that would take you maybe 12 to 15 hours. Do it in an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow.
So you'll head northeast to Meru, spend a couple of nights there. Then you head straight west to Laikipia, a couple of nights there. Then you head southwest to the Masai Mara, a couple of nights there. And then you can come back to Nairobi. So those are 4 options that are there in Kenya. And you can choose to spend 2 nights in either one or more if you wish. However, I've personally flown clients that didn't want to do all 4 destinations because they felt it might be a little bit hectic. So what did they do instead? They went to the first stop for 2 nights, skipped stop number 2, went to number 3 for 3 nights, and then went to number 4 for 3 nights. Similarly, I've had people that do 2 nights, 2 nights, 2 nights, and do only 3 destinations. And then from there, they'll fly from the Masai Mara to Tanzania, passing through customs at Kisumu. It's another 30-minute flight. So just go through border control, and then they'll carry on and do the Tanzanian circuit. Regards when you want to leave, days-wise, there is no fixed day. We have SkySafaris departing any and every single day of the week. As regards timings, again, they are quite flexible. We do generally try to leave each destination around 10 a.m. local time, because there isn't any flight that's more than an hour, 20 minutes. The longest flight that we do is call it about an hour, 20 minutes, give or take a few. So you leave at 10 o'clock, yeah, your next destination by 11:30, 12 o'clock latest. Still gives you that balance where you don't have to rush in the morning, because what a lot of people like to do on their last day, they'll wake up at the crack of dawn and they'll go for a little game drive and a safari, do a little bush breakfast, come back, or like leave the lodge or the camp, go for your game drive, safari, do your little bush breakfast, and go straight to the airstrip, hop onto the plane, next destination. So it gives you that balance. But having said that, I have also had situations where people wanted to leave slightly earlier, 9 o'clock or 8:30, or they wanted to leave at like 11:30, and we've done it all.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. You've got full flexibility. I mean,
absolutely. I've had it where you've had tomorrow is a departure at 10 o'clock, and I'll get a phone call or an email saying, oh, the guests are really enjoying, they would like to extend the night, or they want to leave a little bit later. Is that all right? Yeah, no worries.
You don't get that with Kenya Airways, do you?
You definitely don't.
You certainly don't get it with Ryanair.
No.
You guys also do beach extensions, don't you? This is always kind of interesting for me because, again, you know, we hear about a lot of people that are interested in doing a safari, but usually they take a beach holiday, and you know, we're trying to sort of show people that, look, you know, you can obviously do both. You know, you can have a safari, and it does actually pair well with a beach extension. Tell us about the kinds of beach extensions that they can do with you guys on SkySafari.
Oh, absolutely. It's quite common actually, and it makes sense if you think about it, because ultimately, even if you're traveling around and you've gone to one national park, a second national park, as fun as it is, at the end of 8 or 10 days or 6 days, you're going to be a little bit, yeah, I've been waking up at the crack of dawn, I've gone out, I've had the time of my life, but my body's telling me, hey, you need to slow down a little bit. So similarly, in the Tanzanian circuit, after they go from point A to B to C, there is the option to do your last part of the journey and go down to Zanzibar or the likes, as an example, and finish off your holiday in style and spend the last couple of days on a sunbed on the side of the pool, on the beach, going on a little fishing excursion or whatever you please. Well, it's personally, it's the way I like to do it as well.
It's definitely the way I'd like to do it. It sounds incredible. Just back onto the traveling, onto the traveling by the, you know, by light aircraft. Luggage allowance, you know, again, we get used to at the moment, you know, we're all hopping on, you know, Ryanair flights and EasyJet flights and all this kind of stuff, and we get stung
pay extra for bags.
Yeah. How does that work?
Would you like a pilot that's extra?
yeah, basically. How does it work with you? What's the kind of, is there a set luggage allowance that each passenger is allowed? Or how does it work?
So generally, when you're doing, we call this general aviation. When you're doing a general aviation flight, for example, you go online and you book a ticket, much in the same way that you would book a Kenya Airways, British Airways, Ryanair flight. You've got a limitation on these smaller aircraft because the maximum takeoff weight is limited.
Mm-hmm.
You've got slightly more stringent allowances, which means you're allowed 15 kilos per person, you see. But now those 15 kilos per person, again, is based on the fact that you've got a capacity of 12 passengers.
Mm.
Now, in the SkySafari flights, we've got reduced seating. So you could take, and we do it, by the way, as well. It's not that it's limited to 8 passengers. We often do fly with one pilot, and we can accommodate a passenger up front, which is an experience that a lot of people do enjoy, being up in the cockpit, right next to the pilot. You've got the bird's eye view of everything. You've got the same view that the pilot's got when you're landing. So anyways, based on all of that, you've got fewer people in, which means you've got more allowance for bags. And that allows your baggage allowance to increase.
Fantastic. It sounds good.
Again, now you see, for example, that will again change. I'll give you an example. Should it be that you've got 2 passengers on a flight, the rest of the plane is empty, because we've had it this way where couples or family members, it's just the 2 of us, we're just going to go, and they book out the entire plane. essentially, they've not really got a baggage limitation. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much what you can fit onto it is what they can take. But generally speaking, it is limited to about 23 kilos per person as opposed to your standard 15.
Yeah, which is more than
which is plenty. I mean, you don't need more than 23 kilos going into the bush.
Tell me this: what kind of people are the people that take a SkySafari experience?
Well, I've flown people from all over the world. I've flown people from America, North America, South America, Europe, Asia. It's honestly people that are looking for good value for their money. They're enjoying the quality of life that they have, and they're maybe at that stage of life, perhaps, where you say, well, you know what, it's my time is valuable to me. I don't have time to waste sitting in a vehicle for 6 to 8 hours. I spend thousands of bucks getting here from wherever I've come from, and this is so much more convenient and value for money than it is to get into a Land Cruiser and drive around for 6-8 hours before actually getting to my destination.
Yeah, and is it? No, I was going to say, is it kind of different age groups as well? Is it quite broad, the spectrum for people that take a SkySafari? Is it sort of, does it vary much between families, couples, older generation, sort of middle-aged and younger generation? Is it the full sort of spectrum, or is there any where it's a little bit more popular?
It is the full spectrum. I would say it is quite a bit more popular with people that are maybe, you could say, middle to slightly elder. Mm-hmm. You know, where you've I wouldn't say you're retired, but maybe you're reaching that age where you're thinking about it, or retired as well. You do get quite a bunch of those. I've had quite a few SkySafaris with 6 or 8 people, and they're couples, for example. So 3 to 4 couples, and they've been friends for the last 30, 40 years, and they've been planning a trip to Africa. I was like, you know what, we're going to Africa. We're going to go on a safari. Let's do it in style. That being said, you do get couples as well. I've had couples and families that are quite young. We had a couple the other few months ago. They couldn't have been past their mid-30s to early 40s, just the two of them, as well as families. You get people traveling with little kids, extended families as well. Once had a group of people from Russia traveling, 9 of them, all of them, and it was family members from the grandma down to a 2-year-old.
Tremendous. I love that. So where's next for you? You were telling us before that you've literally just come off a flight. Where did you come in from today, and where are you off to next?
Well, today I did a flight in the morning. I flew into Masai Mara. Mm-hmm. So we did a couple of stops there. So that was not part of the SkySafari. That was our regular scheduled service. Mm-hmm. So a bit more of a commuter style. And that was quite nice. And a couple more similar flights tomorrow, because we as a company, apart from operating SkySafari, we operate all over Kenya and East Africa. So we'll go to the Masai Mara. We've got scheduled flights down to Amboseli, Tsavo National Park, which is further past Amboseli. We go down to the coast, to Mombasa, Diani, up north like Laikipia. So we go all over the place, into Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, all over the place.
And are you getting much tourists? Obviously, we're all starting to recover now. Tourism is starting to gradually come back after the pandemic. Are you starting to see more tourists around Kenya at the moment?
I can say that in the last 6 to 8 months, once the COVID restrictions started lifting, it has been very, very busy. Yeah. We're flying full almost every single day. We've got flights and charter bookings almost every single day. Because I guess there's been a lot of pent-up energy that people are waiting to spend. So yes. It is getting busy. We're supposed to be entering the low season, but I mean, it doesn't look very low.
Yeah. I'm sure it will get low, and that's a great opportunity certainly for our audience who prefer to travel at the certainly at the quieter time of the
year. 100%. You go to not only the national park with the cars, you go to a lodge or a camp and you don't have it full. Yeah. You know what I mean? You get that extra attention as well, where everyone's eyes are on you. You're 2 to 6 people in the camp. You get your own little table set out under the stars, and that little attention to detail, which you may not necessarily get if there's 50 to 100 people there.
In fact, you definitely don't. I'm absolutely sure of it. I think as well, another great opportunity for people that have been, stuck in the 4 walls, as we all have for 2 years, and now they're breaking free. And a lot of people now are wanting to get back to nature, and they want to get some of those dream trips done in case they don't have the opportunity again. And what a great opportunity SkySafari offers them when they go to Kenya to, after 2 years of being locked in, do it in style and make the most of your time in Kenya by doing a SkySafari. I think
absolutely.
We are sadly out of time, Harshil. It's been fascinating speaking to you, and really great to learn a little bit more about what the experience is like at SkySafari, and of course during the low season months at that. But we will have to let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and hopefully I'll see you next time on a SkySafari, and I'll bring you over a shirt, Harshil, as well. How about that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been my absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to have you on board one of my flights.
So there you have it. And you can learn more about SkySafari in the low season months by visiting lowseasontraveller.com/SkySafari, or of course skysafari.com, where you'll be able to see for yourself the incredible views and vistas which Harshil spoke about in this episode. But that's our show for this week. Thanks as always for your company, and if you enjoyed this podcast, please do leave us a positive rating and review on your podcast app, and also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn to be the first to hear our latest low season stories, articles and guides. But that is our show for this week. I hope you have a great week wherever you are, and remember that travel is always better and fairer for the planet, the local communities and you, the travellers, when it's without the crowds.